We are officially on the march to Ten of Swords. The X-Men 2020 Free Comic Book Day release on July 15, 2020 is a hardcore deep-in-the-weeds tease for Ten of Swords, and if you don't have a degree in Hickmanology and strong familiarity with the whole Dawn of X, particularly Tini Howard and Marcus Toe's work on Excalibur, this issue is going to be confusing as heck. I have both those things, and I'm still floundering around among the clues, vague reveals, and new developments. It's the good kind of mystery, at least for me. Today I'll answer, what the heck is happening in the story? What do the tarot cards mean? And who are the mystery characters teased 5 of the 10 players to focus on in Ten of Swords? Hey, I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. If you like the CBH YouTube channel or podcast, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. You can find full X-Men comic book reading orders on comicbookherald.com. Spoilers for discussed comics will follow. Marvel Free Comic Book Day 2020. In print only, hence these photos I've taken of the book. Written by Jonathan Hickman and Tini Howard. Art by Pepe Larraz, bringing the band back together with Marty Gracia on colors from the House of X days. The issue opens in a forgotten place and forsaken time with a fish lady who looks straight out of the Fantastic Four, one of the brides of Black Bolt, but I checked and it's not her. Well, the only named character here that we see of these mysterious sort of supernatural mystical beings is Quadius Quo, a new character as far as I know, and one in need of a new Minotaur horn. They summon some sort of alien star energy for Saturnine. There's a very Lovecraftian influence at play here, summoning something that reflects the Krakin that we see as well in Giant Size X-Men Magneto, the other issue in the X-Men line, released on this same day. Saturnine, she uses the energy to craft future-telling tarot cards and talks about the spoils of the Split Land, which I take to mean Krakoa and Arakko's Dark Half. Saturnine has become a bigger player in the last few issues of Excalibur, again, essential reading to enjoy and understand this event. And essentially she's looking here to win what she views as a war for Otherworld, which is currently ruled by King Jamie Braddock, with Apocalypse really the one pulling the strings. Let's go through the cards that Saturnine reveals with this mystical dark energy that was brought to her by those beings we saw in the issue's opening. To start, there's the Judgment card. We see Apocalypse and the Summoner revealed in X-Men #2 written by Hickman, surrounded by a whole bunch of what I'm calling Nimrod towers, these giant pink towers that we've seen scattered throughout the landscape since House of X and Powers of 10, and we learn here that surrendering to rebirth is the only path ahead. Some ideas about what this might mean. Well, literal Krakoan rebirths are obviously a huge part of the Dawn of X, with all of mutant kind able to be reborn in the new Krakoan environment. Apocalypse has already done this himself in the pages of Excalibur. We also have the possibility of this referencing Moira McTaggart's rebirths, as she literally rebirths from scratch in a new life. Now, of course, this being Moira's 10th life, we don't know that she has another to go, but could this be saying that her 11th life is the only path ahead? I'd be a little surprised if we were pulling that trigger already in the Hickman era of X-Men. The next card is the Four of Wands, which reveals the first horseman of Apocalypse, thoroughly at war, which we know their state to be. This isn't super communicative, honestly, because all we know about the first horseman of Apocalypse at this point are that he really digs them, he's super into them, and he wants them to return from this hellish wasteland that they've been trapped in and have been fighting. They are standing in the gap, to use that shield terminology, on his behalf. Ten of Swords is definitely going to be, I think, focused on the return and rescue of these horsemen. No surprise there. With the Hanged Man card, we have the following characters teased as possibly needing to make a sacrifice and throw themselves on the pyre of change. Apocalypse, Havoc, Beast, Monet St. Croix, Richter, Glob Herman, Banshee, Archangel, and Polaris. I would put particular emphasis on Beast here as a player that makes a lot of sense when you're considering sacrifice, or the question, can any of them be trusted? If you've been reading X-Force, and I won't spoil it here, but if you have, I just did a video on X-Force #10. Beast's character and his decision-making are severely under fire, severely in question right now. So for him to make a sacrifice of immense proportions would be a possible road to redemption for Hank McCoy. I'll also note here on the Hangman card that the Nimrod Towers are again in the background of this card, not in accident. With the Eight of Cups tarot card reading, to me this appeared to reference the corruption of Storm by the Children of the Vault taking place in the Giant Size X-Men series. Now, back in Giant Size X-Men, the first one that was released, which is a Jean Grey and Emma Frost team-up, they go into an unconscious Storm's psyche and discover that she has been possessed by the Children of the Vault technology, that she has 30 days, I believe it is, before the corruption fully takes hold, and I think that's what this card is referencing here, especially the language here, that which was once the harmonious lifting of voices, which is exactly what we saw Storm doing in, I believe, House of X number 5, when we first learn of the resurrection protocols, right? She's the one leading the mutant kind of rah-rah chant as all the X-Men teammates are resurrected, and to then say, and now a mocking echo, of herself would be, I think, a Vault corruption. So I'm very curious to see this. This is actually one of the biggest reveals here, that Storm might lose that battle. Then we finally get to the Ten of Swords, of course, a betrayal as expected, back from, again, when this event was announced, I looked into, okay, I don't know anything about tarot cards. Well, let's check out the Ten of Swords itself. And a lot of my theories and predictions were based around the fact that this card can represent betrayal. It's a literal 10 swords in your back, stabbing potentially, depending on how you're looking at the card. The 10 that are referenced, we know that obviously the X-Men like to, the X-Men creative team likes to really lean into the fact that X stands for the Roman numeral 10, and they're probably going to focus on 10 players in Ten of Swords here. We have Apocalypse, Cable, Wolverine, Magic, Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain, all clearly visible. The next 5 are silhouettes only, so these are guesses, but I would guess Nightcrawler or Exodus, Rogue, Professor X, Magneto, and the last one is a total guess, but I think it could be Bishop. But again, your guess is definitely as good as mine on that one. The free comic book day special is pretty careful not to give away much that we didn't already know. Truthfully, I predicted most of this back in March when the event was announced. To me, the new additions here are, 1, the cyclical sacrifice or betrayal, possibly, of Beast, and how much sense that can make given what's happening in the pages of X-Force. Again, Beast fits either someone who needs to make a major sacrifice or someone who could also be the betrayer. I think like all roads and all signs lead to Mr. Sinister being the obvious choice for that. But again, Beast has been making some very, very questionable decisions in the pages of X-Force. I actually think that would be a less obvious but interesting selection for that play. I'm also really interested here, if I'm reading it right, about the desecration of Storm here. My kind of the assumption is that as the Giant Size series plays out, and the Magneto issue that came out today, which is awesome, it's a Magneto and Namor team up essentially about acquiring an island for Emma Frost. Very, very good, very fun issue. It doesn't deliberately connect to Storm's resurrection in any notable way that I could tell. So there's still a Phantom X Giant Size, and there's still the Storm Giant Size to come. But my assumption, is this being superhero comics, Storm will probably come out of it. They're not going to take Storm off the table. This tease suggests that they might, which is very interesting to me. And would also bring us back to, finally, back in that Hickman-written X-Men number 5, what are Laura Kinney and Darwin and Sync doing in the vault? we've got mutants in the vault. We need to bring them back somehow. I don't know if that'll be a part of Ten of Swords, but it's interesting to me that it could be. We also have, things like the absolute import of the Nimrod Towers. I don't think that's necessarily a shock or a new addition, but just seeing them referenced here time and time again, I'm really interested to learn more about what specifically that means in this mutant era. And then the opening is so weird and so strange to come up with these, mystical characters that really bring to mind like Hickman's Avengers and Builders and all these kind of cosmic beings. We don't know anything about them. All we know is they have a connection to Saturnine and the Starlight Citadel in terms of helping her in her quest to capture this, again, like Lovecraftian entity as some sort of energy to harness that power. I'm really interested to see where Hickman and Howard and the team are going with that and what that is going to mean for Ten of Swords as well. So what are your thoughts on the free comic book day special? Again, this one is, as far as I know, print only. So you got to make it out to a local comic shop. I know in a lot of cases, given the state of the world, that is easier said than done. But I got my mask out. I got my Pure already, and I rode my bike on over to the LCS today just for this. And it's a weird comic. I think as lead-ins go, as free comic book day specials go, it is so dense and immersed in this language of X that has been building since House and Powers in 2019. Again, I joked on Twitter, like, if you handed this to a kid, like, hey, here's the free Marvel book, it would not make a lick of sense. It would either make them love comics forever or hate comics forever, and I could not tell you which. It totally depends on the person, but so it goes. So anyway, that's where you can find this book, or of course you can just watch this video again, and I probably cover most of the highlights. Thanks to everybody over at Patreon, patreon.com/comicbookherald, for supporting Comic Book Herald initiatives. I especially want to thank the mysterious benefactors tier for your kind support of the site and projects. I'm Dave. You can find me at Comic Book Herald pretty much anywhere online. You can find all my writing at comicbookherald.com. You can find the Jonathan Hickman X-Men Arrow reading order at comicbookherald.com as well. Look for the podcast Best Comics Ever for creator interviews I'm doing, and My Marvelous Year podcast for our read through Marvel Comics from 1961 Origins to today. So again, thanks everybody for listening, and as always, enjoy the comics.